Hey guys, it's coming in my review for The Green Knight. So what The Green Knight is essentially about is basically we center on the character of Sir Gawain, and he basically is next in line to become king because King Arthur is slowly retiring, and basically he, of course, is his nephew, and before he does so, he ends up coming in contact with this eponymous character known as the Green Knight. Everyone's very fearful of him. He thinks that he has killed him once and for all, but as soon as he decapitates him, he does in fact come back to life, and basically the Green Knight tells him that 1 year from now he is to meet him to settle the score. So basically a year later, Sir Gawain does in fact venture on this quest, and which really ends up being a test of faith to really see if he is worthy enough to take on this role. So the Green Knight overall, I was very excited for this film. Look, I mean, any A24 film that comes out, I'm usually pretty hyped for it, but this one looked like it was on another level. I mean, especially in terms of just the epic scale of this one, you know, it really looked like something very different and very cinematic, and it was one of the films I was most devastated, of course, was delayed during the pandemic, well, the early days of the pandemic, because we're still very much going through it now. Get vaccinated, everyone. But, you know, that's a whole other story. But I was very excited to see how this film would turn out. The fact that David Lowery as well was at the helm, you know, I really thought this film would be something special. And I have to say, after watching it, The Green Knight absolutely lived up to the hype for me. This is easily one of the most distinctly different, but also one of the most refreshing medieval films that I've seen in quite a bit. It is every bit as epic and thematically rich as I really wanted it to be, and it's by far one of the year's best. But we are just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. So I do want to say right now, that was definitely one of the biggest draws going into this film, I think. I think when it comes to, you know, a movie like this, the cast is really one of the things that you really do need in order for this to work, and thankfully from top to bottom, I mean, everyone really does kill it here. But it has to be said, one of the things that really makes this film work as well as it does is the masterful performance from Dev Patel here, who does of course play our main character and does a phenomenal job in doing so. And look, Dev Patel's someone that I've always really enjoyed as an actor. I think he does a really good job at playing these like very complex roles, especially like morally ambiguous characters like this. But what he does so well about playing someone like Sir Gawain is that he really recognizes that this guy is not necessarily someone that's very noble. In fact, he's kind of cowardly. There are so many situations in which he should be doing something, and yet he doesn't. And he's very selfish. He can be very stubborn at times, and Patel really does understand that. He really leans heavily into the unlikable side of Gawain, but it makes you really latch onto his character because you're hoping that he can really like see the error of his ways. And Patel really does go on this journey of sorts, really transforming into this character. A lot of it is done without any dialogue. Patel does not speak a lot in this movie. Gawain is not the most social character, and that's something that I really did appreciate. He really does embody this character in a way I think very few actors could have. I think any other actor, this character could have come off as very insufferable and just someone that you really do not want to spend 2 hours with. But I think Patel does enough good work to where you really do find yourself latching onto this character, and by the end of the movie, you know, you're really happy you took this journey with him, and I think Patel is a huge reason for that. I really love what he ended up doing here. It's by far one of the best performances I've seen really any actor give all year. Just his facial expressions alone, the way that he reacts to things, and this quest that he ends up going on. But like I said, the sort of transformation that he goes through in this film, he does go through a pretty big arc, and I think Patel just handled all of that with flying colors for sure. This is absolutely one of the best performances I've seen all year, and I really do hope is recognized come Oscar time. I don't think it's going to be, but if the Oscars were tomorrow, I definitely would put him very high on the list because I think he absolutely excelled here. However, maybe even more impressive than him is Alicia Vikander, who is someone else that most likely is going to be a standout in a movie. She is a phenomenal actress, and she rarely gives a performance that isn't top tier, but what she's doing in this film is something that I didn't even realize. She actually plays two characters in this film. One of them is the character of Essel, this like sort of peasant woman that Gawain is smitten by, and they sort of have a romance of sorts. But then on the flip side, she plays this character of Lady, someone who's very rich and uppity and very proper in that way. And I thought this was an amazing decision, not just because it gets to show Vikander's range as an actress, but she really does get to play a very similar character, but juxtapose like two different versions of the same character. And that's something I really did appreciate. And to be honest, like, I didn't realize that Vikander was playing both of these roles until the movie ended, and I think it's just a testament to how well she transforms into both of these characters. Like, Lady, she does a really great job with, but Essel's the one I was very impressed by. She really just digs deep into this role and completely transforms into this character, gets lost in the role, and I loved everything that she ended up doing here. She has one monologue. It's literally just about the color red and what it symbolizes, and I don't know what it was about it, but like something about what she was saying, it really resonated with me, and I think it just shows just how masterful of an actress she really is. I absolutely love what she ended up doing here, and once again, I think gave one of the best supporting actress turns that I've seen all year. As far as the rest of the cast goes, I think everyone does a really strong job here. Joel Edgerton is really great, as he usually is, but in this film, I really liked what he ended up doing in this film. I thought he played a very memorable and fun character. Sean Harris is really good here for what he has. Sarita Choudhury does play Sir Gawain's mother, and I thought she had some of the most emotional material of the entire film, and I really liked what she ended up doing here. Even some of the smaller roles, like Barry Keoghan is not in this film a lot, but for what he has, he's really damn good, and he really does leave an impression on you. Same with Kate Dickie, and then of course Ralph Ineson as the Green Knight. I mean, it is just pitch perfect casting from him. He is so ominous and foreboding, but there also is this sort of like warmth to him, and you know, you really do find yourself liking his character a lot. I think really everyone in terms of acting, I don't think there's a single actor that wasn't on their absolute A game, and I think that's absolutely one of the best things about this film. But now let's get into the directing and the writing, because that is another aspect that I think this film really does excel at. What I really appreciate about David Lowery's directing here is the type of film that he's trying to make. When you go into a film like The Green Knight, you know, you're probably expecting something really epic. You're probably expecting, you know, a bunch of action scenes. You're expecting, you know, just some really crazy, you know, combat and things like that going on. And I will say right now, that's not really what this movie is. This film is actually a lot more meditative and slow than I think people are really expecting. And for some people, that might be very jarring. I can see that being something that hinders the film for them. But for me, I actually saw it as a positive, because I really appreciate the fact that Lowery tried to do something different here. He didn't just want to make like a Lord of the Rings or a Game of Thrones. He really wanted to do something that's more like in his wheelhouse, and I really like the fact that he went for it with this film, because it gives the film an authenticity that I think very few medieval films really do. I mean, this film is very dramatic at points, but it also isn't afraid to get really weird and out there, and I really loved what David Lowery ended up doing here directing-wise. I think this film was very emotional as well. There were many moments that ended up getting to me, and it really is due to Lowery's directing here. But you also find yourself just so invested into what's going on just because of how riveting of a journey this really is. And I really like what he ended up doing here. He really does, even though, yes, most of his films have been directed in the way this film has, I think what separates this one from the others is that he really does, you know, give himself a lot to work with here. I mean, there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot that Lowery has to execute in a way that makes it work, makes it not phony, and I think he really does a great job with grounding us in that reality, and I really like what he ended up doing as a director here. But let's get into his writing, because that far and away, I think, is the thing that really makes this film, I think, a true classic. Because what I really love about The Green Knight as a film is that it's very much a character study of sorts. I mean, and that's really what this film is really about. I think the trailer, it doesn't really tell you what this movie is really going to be, because what this really is, it's a quest of self-discovery. It's a film about honor, nobility, and trust, and it's really kind of unlike anything I've seen from a story like this before, and that really impressed me, I have to say. I really liked what they ended up doing here, and I think they did I think he did a really good job with writing this film, especially when it comes to our main character here, Sir Gawain, who, like I said, is not the most likable character. In fact, he's kind of an asshole throughout the throughout the first half of this movie. He is incredibly stubborn. He is someone that will constantly put himself in, decisions that really only benefit himself. He is, in the beginning of the movie, he's literally just like drinking and like saying a bunch of raunchy things to like women. He is anything but noble, but yet everyone sees something in him. Everyone sees him as this person that could really lead the way. They see so much potential in him, and he himself is very unsure why anyone would view him this way. And I think that was definitely the right way to go about it, because you find yourself just as confused. You're like, why would anyone see this guy as someone that would be willing to take on this role? He doesn't even seem that interested in doing so, but he knows that there is this expectation of him, and you can see how that really does get to him throughout this movie. He knows exactly what he's meant to do. He just doesn't know if he really does have like the willpower to do it. And I really did love getting to see that here. And I think something else that Lowery does so well is how much he really does take his time in telling this story. There are many moments of this film where there's not a lot going on, but I think it worked because he really does want us as an audience to take the time to really see Gawain go on this journey. It's both a very physically laboring one. There's a lot that he does go through in terms of that, but also it's a very mental quest of self-discovery. I think through this journey, Gawain really recognizes his true destiny and who he's really supposed to be, and I think this film kind of tells a very timeless story in that way, and that's something I really did appreciate when it came to the screenplay here. But the other characters that Gawain meets along the way, I think every single one of them, they have something very memorable about them. Whether it's Joel Edgerton, this person that's kind of obsessed with Gawain. He sees him as his hero. He really is like looking up to him, and he's really like rooting for him to be this like amazing guy. He's very much like his hype man, I would say. I really liked what they ended up doing with that character. Or even some of the smaller characters, like say Barry Keoghan that we come across, this guy that sort of ends up in a bit of a scuffle with Sir Gawain. I think every single character here has something memorable about them, and I think that's something else that people might be a little bit disappointed with, is that there's not a lot of characters in this movie that are there the entire time. I would say the main characters really are like Sir Gawain and his mother, and also Essel. I would say those are like the main characters. Everyone else is basically supporting. But I think it makes the film that much stronger as a result, because it feels so much more intimate in that way. And the story that the film is telling with his mother as well, I don't want to get into it too much, but she plays a pretty big role in this film, and there's a really interesting theory sort of going on with her that I think people have started to, think about, and I honestly kind of do buy into it by the time this movie ends, and I really did like getting to see that. And the film goes in so many like unexpected and weird directions, and I'm not gonna lie, there's some things here that I'm still not 100% sure what it really does mean, but I don't really care, because I was just so impressed by the unorthodox directions that this film would go in. Every single time it feels like this film's gonna go in a traditional direction, it finds a way to do the opposite, and sometimes that can be a bit annoying. It's like, oh, they're just trying to go against the grain, oh, they're just trying to subvert expectations. But I think with this film, the fact that it did something very different, and it wasn't, what you normally see a film like this do, I think that's what made it very special. It's very genre bending in that way. I wouldn't really classify this film as a drama. I wouldn't really classify it as an epic. I wouldn't even, at points, it could even be a horror film of sorts. Like, it's a lot of different things, but I think more than anything, it is a character study about this very flawed man and him trying to sort of realize his true destiny. And I think that's what really makes this film into something special. And so I really enjoyed what they end up doing. The dialogue as well, I think, is really well done. The way they really do a great job of setting things up along the way that you don't even realize that they're really setting up until you get there. I think that's something else they just did a really strong job within this film. Everything that's going on, like, exposition-wise, it never felt like this is just a character that's here to spout out, expository dialogue. Every character, I feel like, served some sort of the purpose, and the dialogue very much did tie into that as well. I don't think anything was unintentional in this film, and it's easily one of the best screenplays that I have seen in quite a bit. And, we always know that Lowery does a really good job when it comes to emotional storytelling. He's always kind of had a knack for that. But I think with this film, he really does make his magnum opus here. Like, this feels like everything he's kind of been leading up to. And I think it's because of, while the film is still very thematically rich in that way, I already talked about a lot of the themes that go on, it's also endlessly creative. I mean, there's so many ideas that Lowery comes up with that I was just so impressed by. I was like, I would never have thought of something like that, but it really does make a lot of sense when you think about it in the context of this movie, and I really like the way he ended up constructing that. Things like, say, this fox that Keoghan comes across, it serves a completely different purpose than you really think it does, and I thought he did a really great job with that, so I really enjoyed a lot of his ideas throughout this film. But let's talk about the cinematography here, because I think regardless if you like this film or not, the one thing that you cannot dispute is just how beautiful and masterfully crafted everything in this film is in terms of the visuals. I want you guys to know, like, most of the things going on here, I'm pretty sure are practical effects. There's a lot of practical effects within this film, but it also is this single-handedly most expensive film to ever come out on the indie circuits, and it very much does deliver on that scale. I mean, just every location that Sir Keoghan goes to, it just feels so visceral, and it really does feel like this could be a real world. It really did feel like something that was authentic, and I really enjoyed the way the world was constructed. There is one place especially he goes to. It involves these giants of sorts, and I was just mesmerized by how well crafted it really was. I mean, it is such a visually stunning film. There's so many shots in this film, they're going to be ingrained in my mind for a long time, and like I said, I think regardless if you like this film or not, that is going to be a huge a huge highlight for everyone. This film is a constant visual splendor, and it is just absolutely incredible what they were able to put together, especially, like I said, for this being an art house film. It's amazing to see that they actually are getting a lot bigger in terms of their budget. They're getting a lot bigger in terms of their scale. It's really amazing what they were able to accomplish with this film in terms of cinematography, and I'm so glad that they were, because it really does make me feel good in terms of the direction that films like this are going. I mean, A24 used to be such a small studio, and the fact that they're now capable of distributing something on this level, on this scale, is just amazing to watch, and I think they did such a great job with that. So I can't praise the cinematography enough. The look and feel of everything, it all just feels so right, and I love the way everything was constructed here. The film is very vibrant, very colorful in that way, and I think every single place that Keoghan ventures to, there's something memorable about it. There's something in terms of visuals that you're never going to forget, and I think they did a great job with that overall. The score as well, though, in this film by Daniel Hart is easily one of the best of the entire year. It's so emotionally eviscerating, but it also really does make this film feel very... It gives this film a sense of wonder, and I think a sense of, a sense of thrill that I think it really did need, and I really enjoyed the score here a lot. It is easily one of my favorites that I have heard all year. And the editing. I do think this is going to be an issue for some people. The film can be very slow-paced at times, and I think for some people they might check out of the movie, but the reason why I really never did is because I think the film really does take advantage advantage of the fact that it's a little bit on the longer side. I think it's just the right length. It's never too long. It's just around the right length to really show this journey, to really show how long and arduous this really is for Gawain, but also just how like emotionally taxing it really is for him. And I think they did a really good job in terms of the pacing in this film. I really enjoyed the way all of that was done. However, the other thing that really stuck with me here is the way this movie does wrap up, because I think the ending with a film like this is very important. And gratefully, I think this film maybe has my favorite ending of the entire year. It is one of those endings where I think the movie is worth watching alone just for the last 20 minutes, because it really takes you on a roller coaster of emotions. You think one thing is going on, and at first you're really horrified, and then you're really emotional, but then it finds a way to crescendo into something that's generally uplifting. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is one of the most masterfully crafted endings that I have seen in a very long time, and it's one that I think people are going to be dissecting for years. People are constantly going to be going back to this ending and finding new meanings. I've already been seeing it happening where people are thinking about, what is this ending really suggesting? What is this really hinting at? What can we infer from what we see in this ending? And I really love the way they did choose to wrap this film up, and the ending alone did solidify this as truly one of the most satisfying films of the entire year. Guys, The Green Knight absolutely blew me away. This is a film that absolutely delivers on its scale when it comes to visual effects, which is just absolutely breathtaking to look at, but it tells a story that is so much more meditative and so much more meaningful than I think many are really expecting. It is truly a beautiful character study about loyalty. It's about trust. It's about nobility. It's about a lot of different things, but ultimately it's a story about trying to discover your true destiny, and I think that's something that's going to touch a lot of people for sure. It's got some of the best performances of the year from Dev Patel and Alicia Vikander. Those two alone, I think, are enough for reason to really watch this movie, and as well as one of the most contemplative and satisfying endings that I have seen in a very long time, and a masterful score from Daniel Hart. The Green Knight truly did deliver on all fronts for me. It is absolutely the kind of film that really does remind me what cinema can really do, why cinema is so important, and I am so glad that A24 made the conscious decision to release this in a theater. This is the kind of movie that absolutely needs to be seen in a theater, and I think, you can watch it on VOD now. I think it's still in a few theaters, but I don't think it will be replicated. I don't think that feeling of seeing a theater is something that will be ever replicated, even if you were to watch in like the biggest high-def screen possible and things like that. I think this is a film that absolutely was made for that theatrical experience. It feels like something very special. It really is an amazing way to show how far A24 has come as a distributor. It is absolutely one of my favorite films of the entire year, and honestly, it delivered so much, I can't really find too many flaws with it. There's really nothing to bother me with this movie, so I am just going to go ahead and give The Green Knight an A+. Guys, I can't recommend this movie enough. I mean, it has not been a very strong summer. It really has not. But thankfully, The Green Knight is one of those films that very much did deliver in the way that I wanted it to. And I'm very happy that that was the case. But if you guys have seen The Green Knight, of course, comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought of it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.